تجربة تست. السلام عليكم، تحية طيبة مشاهدينا الأكارم أينما كنتم وأينما يصل بث قناة الجماهيرية الفضائية في هذه الحلقة الجديدة من برنامجكم عشم الوطن. تحية أيضا إلى كل متابعينا عبر القنوات الفضائية، قناة الرأي وقناة ليبيا الرياضية. أيضا نحيي كل من يستمع إلينا عبر الإذاعات المحلية المسموعة وإذاعة الجماهيرية المسموعة أينما يصل أثيرها، وكذلك الإذاعة الموجهة إلى أهلنا وأصدقائنا وإخوتنا في المنطقة الشرقية. لا ننسى كذلك أن نحيي كل من يحرص على متابعة برنامج عشم الوطن عبر الشبكة الدولية الإنترنت. بداية دعوني أرحب بمن معي وأبدأ بالباحث والمحلل السياسي الدكتور يوسف أمين شاكير. تحية طيبة دكتور.
تحية طيبة وسلام على أهل وطننا، وعشم الوطن معكم إن شاء الله دائما وابدا إلى أن ننتصر بإذن الله.
نعم، وكذلك نرحب بضيفنا في هذه الحلقة المؤلف والكاتب الأمريكي الدكتور ويبستر جريفن تاربلي. نرحب بك سيد تاربلي في برنامج عشم الوطن.
Thank you.
على بركة الله نبدأ هذه الحلقة. السيد ويبستر جريفن تاربلي هو مؤلف أمريكي ولديه العديد من الكتابات ولديه العديد من الإصدارات، إصدارات هامة وتحليلات معمقة في هذه الكتب. نرحب بك في البداية، تطلعنا على سبب هذه الزيارة وماذا رأيت قبل أن نخوض الحوار. ماذا رأيت يعني في هذه الزيارة في الجماهيرية؟
Well, I'd like first of all to thank you for the opportunity to speak, and in particular let me bring a salute of admiration from people in the United States who don't believe in what Obama is doing, don't support this war, find that the war is illegal, immoral, primitive, savage, barbaric, and should end as soon as possible. And let me also express, if I may, my admiration for the magnificent resistance of the Libyan people against NATO aggression and their firm commitment to sovereignty, independence, dignity, national pride, and the future of their country. So I'm essentially here on a fact-finding mission. I'm a writer. I wanted to see what was going on. Circumstances have allowed this. I've been very fortunate So I've seen some of the evidence of what has been done, and I hope then to take that back to the United States and elsewhere and make sure that people understand what's happening. And the goal, of course, is that the US Congress will, as soon as possible, cut off the funding for this illegal bombing so that this terror campaign against the Libyan people will cease. And if Obama does not cooperate, then I would say he has to be impeached. He's already gone beyond the limits of the War Powers Act. He's been bombing Libya for more than 90 days. He is now guilty of a federal crime, and we hope to get some backbone into the Congress so that they'll impeach him. Clinton was impeached for a bagatelle compared to the crimes against humanity now Obama's committing.
نعم ويبستر
نعم
ريفن تاربلي. قصة أخرى ومحطة أمريكية أخرى تكشف الخداع deception وتنفض الغبار وتغوص في أعماق الظواهر. سيد مستر تاربلي، لقد كان لك استقراء للواقع في كتابين قبل أن يأتي أوباما إلى الحكم، أحدهما في مارس 2008 والآخر في أغسطس 2008، فترة زمنية قليلة تتحدث على الخداع، كان إحداها في البرايمري والكتاب الثاني قبل الكونفنشن. هل نستطيع أن نقول سيد تاربلي أن وقعنا في الخديعة التي وقع فيها الشعب الأمريكي، حيث أن أوباما هناك خطابان وجهها للعالم الإسلامي، وكان العالم الإسلامي واقفا على رجليه ينتظر الخير من هذا الرئيس؟ إحدى الخطابات كان في اسطنبول والآخر في جامعة القاهرة، والمسلمون واقفون يقولون هذا الرجل الأسود سيأتي منه الخير، ولم يناموا تلك الليلة وكانت شيكاغو تعلن فوز الرئيس أوباما. هل نحن وقعنا في الخديعة مرة أخرى؟
I'm afraid so, but you're in very good company because the American people were duped, were fooled. The difference between Obama and Bush is that Bush and the neocons were open, brutal aggressors, imperialists. Bush said, bring it on, dead or alive, and so forth. With Obama, everything is based on deception, on dissembling, on trickery, on lies, the pleasant face of reform, hope, change, singing tomorrows. The reality is we see a brutal campaign of bombing, aggression, and naval blockade too. Remember that in 2007, 2008, the United States was at a very low point strategically, isolated, militarily defeated really in Afghanistan and Iraq, heading towards bankruptcy. So what happened was imperialism needed a facelift, right? Plastic surgery for imperialism. Take away the snarling face of Bush and Rumsfeld and put the nice face of Obama on there. But unfortunately, what you were getting, as I've written about it, was a Manchurian candidate. That is, someone who had been, if not exactly brainwashed, had been prepared over a long period of time, say 20 years or 25 years, to carry out this mission. He was part of a stable of politicians who had been assembled in the early 1980s by people like Samuel Huntington, Zbigniew Brzezinski, and generally speaking, the Trilateral Commission, David Rockefeller's group, a Wall Street group which acts then in politics. And they knew that they calculated they would be facing a social crisis around 2010, give or take a few years, and they began preparing a special kind of post-racial black candidate, Obama being an example, to be able to bring that person in and win an election of the type that we just had. The reality of Obama is that his grandparents worked for the CIA. His mother worked for the CIA. She worked for the United States Agency for International Development. She also worked for the Ford Foundation, which is the privatized version of the CIA. Obama himself worked for a company called Business International Corporation, CIA front. He also then worked for a series of foundations, the Joyce, the Woods, the Gamaliel, and the Annenberg. So this is the world of the foundations. He is an operative. And the main things about him I think you should know is he is a warmonger. When he came into office, we had 2 wars. We had Afghanistan and Iraq. He has massively escalated the war with Pakistan. He has started a war now with Yemen. And of course, he has bombed and blockaded Libya. So we're now up to, I believe we're up to 5 wars. And we may soon have the trifecta, which would be Syria, Iran, and Lebanon all at once. We'd be up to 8 wars. So this is, as I say in this book, it's a recipe for world tragedy. The other thing about him is he's a Wall Street puppet. He does exactly what the Wall Street banks tell him to do. And he's also a union buster. He hates labor, he hates teachers, he hates workers of all kinds, and he wants to crush them. So this is unfortunately the reality underneath the smiling face.
This is it mean he came for unfinished business في انه جاي لاستكمال عمل لم يستكمل بعد. فهل نحن في هذه الصورة وفي هذه الأوصاف وفي هذه التحليلات التي عملت، هل نحن وقعنا في منتصف الطريق لكي يشنوا علينا حرب؟ وخاصة في أحد الكتبك في شابتر تكلمت على ثورات الألوان التي عمت شرق أوروبا وبعض الدول العربية. كيف تحلل هذه الحرب من هذه الخلطة التي أتيت بها وتكلمت عنها في هذان أو 3 كتب التي كتبتها؟
Yes, a very important theme. The CIA over the years has developed ways to overthrow governments, to essentially defeat the modern state. And the CIA was carrying these things out under Bush. We had the Orange Revolution in Ukraine. We had the Roses Revolution in Georgia. We had an attempted revolution, the Cedars of Lebanon, which did not work because there was a mass organization that didn't let it happen. Now, the Obama election campaign was a color revolution inside the United States. Mm-hmm. But now that has now been re-exported again with Twitter and Facebook and YouTube and the social media, all cynically manipulated by the CIA, by US Cyber Command, which is a military department which does nothing but internet.
وهذا جزء ما رأيناه من خلال ما يسمى دعم الديمقراطية في المؤسسة called National Endowment for Democracy. We find out لقد وجدنا أن هذه المؤسسة تعطي أموالا لكثير من الليبيين الذين they soften the theater، يعني جهزوا المسرح للانقضاض من قبل الإسلاميين. يعني هذه ما يحدث في ليبيا الآن هو ابتدأه NGOs and after the fanatic, the Qaeda take over on the land.
Right. And we'll get to Al-Qaeda in just a minute, but the idea is that using these techniques of manipulation, there was an attempt to do it in Iran in the summer of 2009. That didn't work. But then we got WikiLeaks into the act, right? Julian Assange. Now, this is also an emanation of the CIA. This is the CIA exposing itself, a striptease by the CIA, showing certain parts, hiding other parts. So the outcome of WikiLeaks was to attack whom? To attack Ben Ali, to attack Colonel Gaddafi, to attack Mubarak, to attack Berlusconi, Putin, Fernandez Kirchner of Argentina, all the people that the CIA doesn't like or wanted to get rid of. And then we had the Jasmine Revolution in Tunisia. Now again, this is a destabilization. It's a coup. You have the youth in the square, people who are interested in Twitter and Facebook and so forth. This allows the international media to say it's a democracy revolution. But this is not really where the struggle of power is. The struggle of power is in the background in the form of a military coup, a palace putsch carried out by the Tunisian military, and the same thing in Egypt by Field Marshal Tantawi and General Enan, who were in the Pentagon when the destabilization started. So you have this crowd in the square, but that's not really the action. The action is the coup behind the scenes. Now, Libya, obviously different. Because of your system of town meetings and this participatory democracy that you have, it's much more difficult to have anything like a color revolution. So what was planned in this case is...
We create the color revolution. Our revolution is called the Green Revolution. Our leader قائدنا هو الذي أبدع ثورة الألوان، لكن من أجل الخير، من أجل النماء، من قائدنا أبدع ثورة الألوان من أجل الخير، من أجل النماء، من أجل المشاركة الكبيرة للشعب الليبي في نظام الحكم. ولكن هذه الثورات الألوان ثورات الشياطين، فكيف ترى بين هذا وذاك؟
Right. Well, on the positive side with Colonel Gaddafi, you don't need a fake color revolution. You have your real revolution, which is composed of very significant achievements, right? The end of a monarchy, the end of foreign domination, the removal of a very big foreign base, the nationalization of oil over the years, resistance against all kinds of subversive attempts, bombing in 1985, the attempts in the middle of the 1990s, then national infrastructure, the great man-made river. And then I think one of the important things is that by resisting today, Libya and Colonel Gaddafi have made it possible to strip away the mask of the color revolutions of the CIA. In other words, strip away the rhetoric about democracy and freedom and human rights and show that underneath it was the same brutal, cynical face of imperialism. In other words, killing and bombing and so forth. It's interesting, though, that in the case of Libya, it's the British and the French, the old imperialists of Suez, who make a comeback with Obama in the background because he doesn't want to embarrass himself by being an open imperialist. He can't be as violent as Sarkozy or Cameron because he is, of course, a peace angel. He's a Nobel Peace Prize winner.
Trying to play it with cold blood.
Well, just faking, right, as usual, deception, right, typical Obama. But the thing that is, I think, the most important thing to stress about the attack on Libya is the role of Al-Qaeda, because this is overwhelming, and this is really the biggest weakness of it all. For years and years, the CIA, the State Department have been saying Al-Qaeda is absolute evil. They did, all these terrorist actions and so forth. Now, we know, I'm sure you know, Al-Qaeda was founded by the CIA, created by the United States, actually created by Robert Gates, the man who's just now retiring at the Pentagon. So he was the founder. And they used it as a kind of auxiliary against the Soviets in Afghanistan. They've used it in Iraq, they've used it elsewhere. But here in Libya, they're using it very openly. Essentially, what is attacking you is a NATO machine with airplanes and the Navy, and the ground forces, the NATO infantry, are Al-Qaeda.
That's true.
And we've read with shock in the international press, the Italian and British, but also some American press, about these people like Hassadi in Darna, and Kumu or
Bengomu.
Kumu.
Yeah.
Also in Derna, and Barani, I believe, also, the three in Derna. And the problem with this is that this is now a case where the United States, Mrs. Clinton and Obama and Leon Panetta at the CIA and the Pentagon, they are saying, if you're from Al-Qaeda in Pakistan, we kill you elsewhere, but if you're from Al-Qaeda in Libya, we have $33 billion for you. We have heavy weapons, we have public relations, we have diplomatic support, we have media support, we have all the international press that will say, if you're from Al-Qaeda, you're a freedom fighter, you're a wonderful person. Now, inside the US Congress, as you may have noticed, there are some people who are very upset about this. In particular, let's say it, right-wing Republicans, the so-called Tea Party.
Tea Party, yes.
They don't like the idea of giving their money to Al-Qaeda and supporting Al-Qaeda. So there has been a movement in the House of Representatives to cut off the money. And I am sure that if you continue to expose this aspect of the destabilization here, the Al-Qaeda story, I think that you're going to find there is a significant chance of cutting off the money and ending the war, which I hope will happen.
سؤال سيد تاربلي، ما الفرق في هذه الحالة ما بين الناتو والقاعدة؟ القاعدة تشتغل على الأرض، تروع الناس وتقتلهم، والناتو يقصف المباني ويقتل الأطفال والأبرياء. سؤال، ما الفرق ما بين الناتو والقاعدة؟
Well, they're part of the same unit. They're working together. They're working hand in glove, hand in hand, and it's a tremendous scandal, and it's outrageous. And the only thing I can say is, to the extent that the American people learn more about this, they're going to be horrified, and they're going to demand, I think, that it will end. At least I hope so. I can't guarantee that, but I think it's worth working very seriously in that direction.
Can we conclude from this story, from what's going on right now, announcement of killing bin Laden and United States supporting Al-Qaeda in Libya. Did you think this enemy, who was created perfectly by Gates and the United States in Peshawar, did you think it's finished? They will kill this Frankenstein who they created, or Frankenstein is so smart he will turn around to bite their hands and legs?
Well, it's maybe the way to answer that is to look across the world. What we see is a total assault by the State Department and the CIA against every independent nation state in the world. The CIA basically says, we want the empire. We don't want any more nation states. There will be no more independence, no more sovereignty, no more national dignity. But we will have warlords, we will have criminal enterprises, we will have tribalism, or we will simply have chaos. And in that chaos, we'll steal the things that we want. The case of the bin Laden story is very ominous, because the story told about this, it's fantastic, because I think it's widely understood bin Laden had been dead for about 10 years. At least that was my view. He'd been long dead. He died of kidney failure in 2001 or 2002. What you had going there was a kind of a production bureau making tapes. When the CIA wanted a tape made, they had these people in Abbottabad, and they would get a tape made. For example, when Bush wanted to get reelected, they needed a tape to scare the American people. So they said, give us a tape. And they had bin Laden come out with a very dark beard. And similarly, at different times, they would have these tapes made. They would also use, I think, actors to give messages to terrorists who would call in and ask what they should do. So the CIA office there was probably a liaison office, not an office to investigate anything. Anyway, the story that is told about this is completely contradictory and keeps changing. The one fact about this is that Pakistan is targeted. It's another announcement that the United States is close to war with Pakistan, which you have to factor in to your own strategic situation, that the US and Pakistan could be openly at war just about at any time. The US goal there is to steal control of the nuclear forces of Pakistan, to strip them away. And that would be done by a raid very similar to the bin Laden raid. It would be done by a raid coming from an air base in Afghanistan and going into Pakistan and stealing the nuclear forces. So what that signals is a rampage by the United States, a flight forward, a kind of hysteria in the ruling elite, which means that really everybody in the world is now threatened. Everybody is in danger. And this includes Iran, China, Russia, because we have people in the United States who say, more color revolutions, and we'll ride them to Tehran, to Beijing, to Moscow, and any place else, which is insane and can get you very quickly into a very serious war, a world conflagration.
في سياق الأزمة الليبية في سياق الحرب على ليبيا وفي سياق الجنون في الصراع بين الحزب الديمقراطي والجمهوري، هل نحن وقعنا كجزء من هذا الصراع عندما نرى الكونغرس الآن الصراع قائم وحاد بين رافض وأخذوا بعض القرارات، والآن اليوم في هناك تصويت ثاني للضغط على أوباما؟ هل من خلال استقراءك للواقع للسياسة الخارجية الأمريكية they will get out of it?
Well, I hope so. And again, I think that's what we need to work for, what I personally am trying to do. There had been a peace movement in the past, which was mainly leftists.
60s.
Well, no, in the Iraq period, the anti-Bush movement. If you looked in the United States in 2006, 2007, there was a big anti-war movement. They didn't like Iraq in particular. There was an impeachment movement to impeach Bush and Cheney. There was also a 9/11 truth movement. The effect of Obama has been to destroy all of that. So the leftists, the pacifists, are not doing anything. They're paralyzed for the moment. But instead, we've got these right-wing Republicans from the Tea Party who are, in many ways, doing more. And right now, if we move 30 votes in the House of Representatives out of the war column and into the peace column, the money could be shut off and the bombing could stop. Now, if the U.S. drops out, you have a situation like Suez, 1956, where the British and the French are up in front. The U.S. drops out. The British and the French right now are like two drunks who can't stand up alone, so they prop each other up. Because neither one of them could do this alone. So they've merged their military establishment, and I think that would then bring it to an end, and that is what I hope. Because the only thing to be said about this is end it, stop it. It's a crime, it's a shame, it's humiliating and horrifying for me as an American to see this is done in my name with tax money that I pay, at least a little bit of it, well, we need to end it.
نعم. إذن بهذا نقول أن في الولايات المتحدة الأمريكية النظام هو الذي يحكم وليس الرئيس. تتغير الفترات الرئاسية، ولكن النظام الرأسمالي هو الذي يتحكم في تنظيم الأمور وتسييرها.
Well, yes. The thing you need to know about Obama, of course, is that he's a puppet. He's a Wall Street puppet. He doesn't make decisions. He's told by handlers, by powerful interest groups what to do. He's blackmailed on any number of issues. It's not clear he was born in the United States, which is a big issue in the U.S. and
suspecting his religion too, and the percentages.
Some people care about that.
Trying to play the game with him. هم يحاولوا استمالة أوباما في الطريق الذي يريدون، وهذا أعطانا أن نحن فعلا وقعنا في خديعة كما تتحدث حضرتك قبل مجيء أوباما في هذا الكتاب على الديسبشن اللي وقعنا فيه. فنحن المال والثروة والسرقة والقرصنة وتأييد التطرف كلها أتت في هذه الحرب. الأشياء اللي كانت الولايات المتحدة الأمريكية في 11/9 أعلنت الحرب عليها، وتتذكر كلمة بوش الابن: من ليس معنا فهو ضدنا. ما هي القصة الآن اللي تدعو الولايات المتحدة وهذا الحلف الشيطاني أن يشن الحرب على بلد آمن كانت علاقاته معه من أبدع ما يمكن وليس كان فيها صراع؟
نعم. ألا تعتقد يعني سيد ترابلي بهذا ضرب الدستور الأمريكي باتخاذ هذا القرار، قرار الحرب ضد ليبيا؟
Yep, the constitutional issue, I think, is very clear. Congress declares war. President can't do that alone. That's clear. That's an impeachable offense. And to make it even more specific, there is the War Powers Act, which says after 90 days, there must be congressional approval. Otherwise, that's a federal crime. And that's why I think Obama should be impeached. Maybe just a couple of other things, though. in the Republican presidential debate, there were 3 candidates who, in the course of a television broadcast, said that the rebels in Benghazi represent Al-Qaeda. That was Michelle Bachmann, congresswoman from Minnesota.
No.
She is a leader of the Tea Party. She was very explicit. The rebels are Al-Qaeda. Newt Gingrich, the former Speaker of the House, said the same thing. And there was another candidate, Kane. This is Kane. He's a black guy. He does Papa John's Pizza. So that's 3 out of 8 presidential candidates for the Republicans are signaling that they don't like this U.S. participation. So if we put the Democrats and the Republicans in the House of Representatives together with the people in the presidential campaign, that's an important combination. The other thing which is bearing down on U.S. politics is the question of atrocities against black Africans, black Libyans in the rebel-held areas, lynchings, massacres, and so forth. If you're from southern Libya, or if you were from Mali or
No.
Chad or Sudan or Somalia, if you were
No.
guest worker, then being black in Benghazi was very dangerous.
No.
So that's also very important for the black community and for people in general. So I think those issues add up to the tremendous political vulnerability of this entire military adventure by Obama. And again, I hope that it will come to an end at the earliest possible date.
نعم. مقالة رائعة لمجلة فورين بوليسي في هذا اليوم تقول مجلس الشيوخ الأمريكي سيعقد اليوم جلسة اجتماع حول تقليص صلاحيات أوباما الحربية. سؤالي، هل سيطيح مجلس الشيوخ بتدخل أوباما في ليبيا؟ From a prediction point of view, من خلال استقراء.
I think it's more likely that the House of Representatives will act first, because you'll remember the Republicans control the House of Representatives, and surprisingly, ironically, the Republicans are now the anti-war party. So in the Senate, though, it's still the Democrats who control it. So I think we probably shouldn't expect the Senate to do what we would like. So it's going to take a bit more time.
Is there a kind of bargaining between the two parties concerning this issue?
A bargain.
It's bargaining through some other issues.
There is. Well, the big issue is the American people are sick of war. That's the underlying theme. Sick of Iraq, sick of Afghanistan. But the way that Obama has done the attack on Libya has attracted a tremendous amount of rage, because he's lied about it so openly and so outrageously that the Republicans are boiling. The other interesting thing is the Republicans have long believed that, and I have to say it, Obama is a terrorist himself, which I guess we see. But what the Republicans mean by this is, if we go back and look at the life history of Obama, he had 2 friends, a man called William Ayers, Bill Ayers, and Bernardine Dorn. And it turns out that in the 1960s and the 1970s, these 2 persons were leaders of a terrorist underground cell called the Weathermen. The Weathermen. This was the anti-Vietnam War movement going violent. They blew up the New York City Police Department office. They blew up the Pentagon, or part of it, small part. They attacked the U.S. Capitol. They killed policemen. And it turns out that these 2, Ayers and Dorn, are professors today, and they're the friends of Obama. They were the closest people to him in the 1990s when he began his political career. So the Republicans are interested in saying, Obama, you have this very strange past, and now you're supporting Al-Qaeda in Libya. What is this? I think it's a politically very dangerous thing for Obama to be doing.
من خلال
أوباما بهذا يعني عندما تولى منصبه الرئاسي تأمل العالم فيه خيرا، خاصة بعد تصريحاته بأنه سوف يقفل سجن غوانتانامو بعد عام، ولكن من خلال ما قدمه أوباما منذ توليه الرئاسة إلى يومنا هذا اتضح للعالم أنه أكثر بياضا من جورج بوش، من الناحية طبعا من الناحية التعامل وليس من الناحية اللون، وإنما من ناحية التعامل. تحدث عن السلام ولكنه بالعكس ساهم في الإرهاب العالمي.
You could say he's more white. I wouldn't quite put it that way. I would say Obama represents a more effective form of evil than Bush, in the sense that you might say Bush is absolutely more evil as an individual. But the problem is that Bush was so crude and so primitive and so stupid in his evil that he was not able to do or to accomplish as much evil as he wanted. Whereas Obama creates more evil. In other words, he inflicts more evil on the world precisely because so many people were fooled. And again, the peace movement in the United States today on the left is non-existent almost because they don't want to embarrass Obama. So therefore we have to look to these right-wing Republicans. So this is unfortunately the situation. I would urge everybody, put aside your illusions. Obama ran on hope and change. He said he was the Messiah. This is obviously a complete propaganda exercise, a tissue of lies.
من خلال مجيئك كلجنة تقصي الحقائق، ونحن الحقيقة نشكر لجنة تقصي الحقائق والدكتور زيدان وخالد بازيليا الذين نعتبرهم جنود الخفا، والذين فعلا يقومون بأعمال نقية مهنية بدرجة الأولى. من خلال مشاهدتك لما رأيت من دمار وقتل الأطفال وتمزيق الأشلاء وضرب البنية التحتية، وأن هناك كذب بنيت عليه حرب، ما هي الرسالة في نهاية هذا الحديث التي توجهها للشعب الأمريكي من هذا المنبر أو من خلال هذه القناة؟
I would urge the American people to realize that what was happening in Libya was never a threat to international peace and security. It was a rebellion artificially created from the outside by the CIA, by the State Department, by the Pentagon. If the United States departed the scene, I think the rebellion would end very soon. The humanitarian emergency would begin to subside. Peace would return. And I don't think there'd be any terrible consequences for anybody. Everybody would be better off. Because remember, this is a conflict between a modern state, the Tripoli government of Colonel Gaddafi and others, and chaos. Warlords, secessionists, very dirty word in American history. Secessionist, rebel is a dirty word. Yeah. So I would urge the American people to wake up to the fact that they've been lied to, and I hope to educate in whatever I can do to show what lies these were, because the entire attack on Libya is built on falsifications. It's built on fables from Al Jazeera.
Like the Iraq war.
Yes, exactly. The same method, the weapons of mass destruction have now turned into the human rights abuses, so it's time to wake up.
And the case which they develop, every month they develop a different case. The first case they developed, which bombing of the civilian with the airplane, which there is no airplane. Right. Secondly, missionary. Right. Third, now, rape of women. And all these cases, after a while, the people discover it's a fake. For that, we need the public opinion and the media in the United States through the honest people like you and like Cynthia and like a lot of voices in the United States. I show it on the internet to educate the American and deliver a message. Our people under attack, our children assassinated by the United States, by the NATO, and we need the help of the people. That's
and
what-
I hope we can give it.
Thank you.
I'll do what I can to give it.
Thank you very much.
وأنا بدوري أتمنى
Thank you.
لك
You and us today.
أنا بدوري أتمنى لك التوفيق سيد ترابلي في تقصي الحقائق ونقلها، ولما لا في الفترة المقبلة لما لا تكون لك كتابات تتحدث عن هذه الفترة الزمنية التي ظلم فيها الشعب الليبي حول هذه الحرب التي شنت عليه بقرارات لم تكن صائبة ولا شرعية لها. قبل أن نختم نشاهد هذه الكتابات عن هذه الكتب. هذا الكتاب يتحدث عن أوباما، ونتمنى لك كل التوفيق. شكرا جزيلا لك الدكتور ويبستر جريفن تاربلي المؤلف والكاتب الأمريكي. سعدت بلقائك ونتمنى لك إقامة طيبة، ونتمنى أن يعم السلام في العالم أجمع.
Thank you.
شكرا.
Thank you.
والشكر موصول لكم مشاهدينا. طبعا نستمر معكم بعد هذا الفاصل لنكمل ما تبقى من برنامج عشم الوطن مع الدكتور يوسف أمين شاكير، فتفضلوا بالبقاء معنا.